Let's talk about everybody's favorite topic, money. All right, do you want to make more money as a paralegal? Who doesn't, right? That's a silly question. Well, you know that I like to give actionable strategies, things that you can do, take away. And so I'm going to give you 3 things to do if you want to make more money as a paralegal. Hi, I'm Ann Pearson, founder of the Paralegal Bootcamp and a prior paralegal manager. And these are things about money that I didn't know when I was a paralegal that I wished I knew, things I saw on the management side of things that I want to share with you. So let's start with our first one. Number 1, make them more money. All right, strategy number 1, make them more money or save them money if you're working in a corporate legal department or a government agency. But so now maybe you've already heard this before, either general tips or advice or articles on LinkedIn, the typical career articles. I'm telling you from a manager's perspective, though, the company or the law firm that you work for, you can make more money for yourself if you make them money. But you have to do more than just that if you want to make more money. What you have to do is make sure they know that you're making them more money, or make sure they know that you're saving them money. So what you've got to do is, 1, you've got to know your data. You got to know your data, you got to track your data, and you got to share your data. In other words, the decision maker in your organization needs to know what your numbers are. Which numbers is going to depend on the type of firm that you work for. Now, we'll talk about some more of that in a minute, but let's first start, maybe take a look at what those numbers might be. Well, the numbers, I'm calling them, are KPIs, key performance indicators. And that's what every single company, organization, everybody tracks KPIs. And that's a way to predict revenue for the law firm, if you're a law firm, but any business uses KPIs, because KPIs tell them this is what's going to lead to more money for them. It's unique to every employer type. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's say that you work in a personal injury firm. It's not just the actual money that comes in from those settlements. There's the number, this is the data that you'd want to track, the number of how many open claim files you have each month. Keep track of them monthly, not yearly, because they're going to vary every month. So the number of open claim files, the number of claim files that settled this month after you put together that amazing demand package, like what we teach in the personal injury boot camp, the number of active litigation files that you have each month, because those are a lot more work than the other files. And then if you do intake, maybe the number of intake calls that resulted in signups from your intake calls this month. And then the total dollars that came in this month from settlements. Notice for each one of these that you're tracking them each month. Literally sit down at the beginning, the first day of the following month, and look back and write down or put these in a spreadsheet. This is my KPIs for the month. Now, these are not numbers that you wait and look back at the end of the year, because every year might be the same, right? You could look and say, every year I handled X amount if you averaged out for the whole year. So don't do it yearly, do it monthly, every month. In a defense firm, time is money. Your time equates to money that the law firm brings in. That's what keeps their doors open. And so in a defense firm, you're going to want to track things like your number of billable hours, especially if it's higher, you can compare it to the firm's goal hours. The number of active, either new litigation files, transaction files, whatever practice area you're in, the number of those that are new each month that you're actively managing. And then productivity number. And I've done videos on this before and blog articles about it. I'll find them and link them in the description. But, your productivity number is essentially the number of hours that you worked compared to the number of hours that were billable in those hours worked. And it's especially important if you track that number and you have low overtime and high billable hours. That's a good number to have. You're also going to want to track your number of non-billable hours if you do things like volunteer or work on pro bono cases, or maybe just firm projects that are administrative, but that still benefit the firm in some way. All right, so number one, make them money and make sure they know that you're making them money. Number two, ask for the money that you want. That's really important. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Ask for the money you want. Now, the thing that's important about asking for the money that you want, especially if you're asking for a raise or an increase, is that you do number one first. You've got to bring the data, right? All the data that we talked about. So first, I want to make sure that you're not making a few mistakes that I see typically, just some mistakes when you're thinking about asking for money. First, these are mistakes. You don't regularly check in with your supervisor and ask for feedback on how you're doing. Have you ever received those phone calls from the cable companies, or just done business maybe at the car warranty place, and they ask you to rate them on a scale of 1 to 5, and you've only had a 10 or 15-minute interaction with them? You're working with these attorneys for 8, 10, 12 hours a day, 200, 240 days a year, probably around 2,000 hours a year you're working and spending time with these attorneys. If you do have a formal review process, don't wait until the end of the year, the end of those 2,000 hours, and wait and see what they have to say about you. Whether or not there are things that you could do to improve, you want to know before it's time for your raise. You want to know throughout the year. So do regular check-ins with your attorneys and ask them, is there anything that I could do better to support you? If you were to rate me on a scale of 1 to 5 right now, what would you rate me? Or, this is a second mistake that I see, you go more than a year without asking for a raise. I'm amazed how much I see that on LinkedIn and Facebook groups. But some paralegals haven't had a raise in 3 years, mostly at the smaller firms. This usually doesn't happen at the larger firms that have a formal review process. But if you go that long without asking for a raise, then you are significantly impacting your future income. Just go look up any of the statistics on how much money you lose overall in your whole career by going even 1 or 2 years without asking for a raise. If you work at a firm that doesn't have an HR person or an office manager, your attorneys don't know that they should be doing this on a regular basis. They really don't know. They don't have any special management classes in law school. So especially if you're at a small firm, understand that maybe it's been a couple of years because they just don't know any better. So I'll give you a way to fix that. And then finally, the other mistake that I see, regardless of the size of the firm that you're at, and actually I see this more when there is a structured annual review process in place. You wait for the time to come where you're going to meet with your manager and talk about your performance review and hope that they tell you that you're getting a big fat raise, the one that you think you deserve. By that time, it's too late. It's too late for them to get that increase in the budget. The budget's already been decided. Everything has been decided. So the question I get asked most often, well, Anne, what if I ask and they say no? Well, if you don't ask, then the answer is definitely no, right? We've talked about that a lot on the YouTube channel, on the podcast, in blog articles. So the worst case scenario is if you ask and they say no, you're in the same place that you were. So maybe they can't afford it. Maybe they say, I can't afford it. Let's have a plan on what we need to have in place and be ready before we ask, right? So you're not going to don't leave this video and go walk in there and ask for a big fat raise tomorrow, okay? You got to start tracking numbers for a while, at least a few months. So You want to walk in there with your numbers. You want to walk in there with your non-number information, right? The accomplishments that you've had this year. You want client emails that compliment you in your work. You want emails from colleagues and other attorneys. And if you've been helping out on other teams, emails from other paralegals thanking you for coming in on the weekend, and the courses and skills that you've added this year. One thing that's important to remember here, because I hear too many regrets about this particular situation from people who were working at a place that they really enjoyed, and they enjoyed the people, they liked their job. They just felt like they were being underpaid. Do not go get another offer from another firm in hopes of getting your current firm to give you more money if you haven't already asked for more money first. If you don't ever develop the ability to have courageous conversations, the ones that are going to be required if you're going to ask for more money, then you're going to have to do this every couple of years. Trust me, it's so much easier for you to do this the first time. But one thing to keep in mind from a management perspective, if you're doing your job exactly as your job description calls you to do, then you'll get decent average raises every year based on maybe an increased cost of living or the standard 2%, but that's all. If you want to get above average raises and get above average pay, you have to be better than average, which leads me to number 3. Be the top performer. That's strategy number 3. You have to be the top performer if you want to be the top paying or paid paralegal. How exactly do you do this? Well, I'm going to give you some more mistakes, things that are going to prevent you from being a top performer. So mistake number 1 that I see is that you think that the small stuff doesn't matter. It's just the big important stuff like the trial binder that needs to be done. It's the big things that have to be perfect. It's not a big deal if it's just a 2-sentence email that has an error in it, or that quick email to the client or the attorney, or the case number is wrong on a notice of deposition. Whoever looks at a notice of deposition case caption anyways? It's not like a summary judgment brief, right? No. Think of it like this. With each spelling or grammatical error, each time there's a case number that's wrong in the case caption, something gets messed up, just something in a small email or whatever, maybe there's some missing punctuation. So all of these things end up in what I call this virtual trash can, the attorney's virtual trash can. The problem is no one really knows how full that attorney's trash can get before it just tips over. And when it tips over, you've lost credibility and trust and all those things, and you can't be a top performer. What you want to do is make sure that you leave plenty of room in this virtual trash can for the bigger mistakes, the mistakes that you couldn't prevent or didn't have time to prevent, and the ones that you'll learn from. Mistake number 2 that I see that's preventing most paralegals from being in that top performer status is to be afraid to ask for training. I see this one all the time. I'll get on a phone call or in an email communication with a litigation paralegal who's been working for maybe a few years, and they want to take the litigation boot camp. And they're afraid to ask their attorney to pay for it because they don't want the attorney to know that they don't know what they don't know. When you do ask, here are a few tips that I would give you. 1, make it about them. What results will they, the attorney, get? For example, in our personal injury boot camp, I help them find and remove the bottleneck and get the personal injury claim files to the settlement sooner. And that means that the attorney, the firm is going to get money sooner. It's going to get money in quicker, right? In the litigation boot camp, I give them a step-by-step process to be able to move a case proactively forward without waiting for the attorney to tell them everything that they have to do along the way. So that frees up the attorney's time. That's the attorney advantage to the paralegal taking the course. Maybe you've asked to attend a conference before and they've said no. Well, to me, a conference is a little different, right? A conference is pretty general in nature. If you do that, you have to say, are there specific sessions of the conference that could benefit the attorney that you could highlight when you're asking them? And then you want to tell them or ask, how will it benefit you, the paralegal? Maybe there are things that won't necessarily directly benefit the attorney or the firm, but it'll benefit you. It'll make you more efficient, whatever that might be. When you ask, use these words. Would you be willing to invest X dollars in me? Would you be willing to invest $397 in me? Use those exact words, because it's kind of hard to say no to that. It works. You'd be surprised how well that works. To be able to say that and have them say, no, I wouldn't be willing to invest in you. Well, I don't think that they'd say it like that anyways. They'd probably say something more like, no, I can't afford it or whatever. But use those words instead of asking, will you pay $397 for me to take this course? Ask, will you be willing to invest, or would you be willing to invest $397 in me? But give them all the other reasons too. How's it going to benefit them and how's it going to benefit you? Mistake number 3 that I see preventing paralegals from being top performers would be to be a taskmaster. That's the 3rd mistake that could prevent you from being the top performer and getting the biggest raise possible. That's what we're talking about here. So what I mean by this is you receive an assignment, you get specific instructions on how to do it. You do the assignment, you follow the instructions exactly as given. You probably got the assignment last minute from the attorney, so you rush to complete the project on time, and you do complete it on time, and woo, got that one off our back, and then we just sit there and wait. We, breathe a sigh of relief, yay. And then we wait for the attorney to give us another assignment. The reason why this is going to prevent you from being a top performer and getting those big raises is because there's nothing that's benefiting the attorney, right? If you can show them how you can proactively be doing things so they don't have to remember every little thing. Like, when I have to sit and think, okay, what do I need to assign to my assistant today versus them, they're already doing it. They've already looked at my calendar and know I can be proactively doing this, this, and this. And so it takes a lot off of an attorney's mind if they don't have to remember to tell you or to assign you each and every task. So when you're waiting for that attorney to bring you last minute projects, to me, that's like, I call it playing whack-a-mole. And that's not a way to make as much money as possible as a paralegal. Sure, you'll survive. Maybe you'll learn a few things along the way, but you're probably going to make some mistakes, which goes back to the small stuff. That's when you make those kind of mistakes, when you're working on last minute projects. All right, another mistake I can think of, I guess we're on mistake number 4. Yeah. Wait for others to show you how to be a top performer. Wait for others in your office to show you. And the reason I say this is because you've probably heard me say this before. I remember, you probably remember, if you started at a big firm, you're assigned a mentor, and that mentor takes you to lunch on your first day, and then you never see them again. Like, that's it. That's your on-the-job training. So good luck with that, and move on. I was there. I hear it all the time. That's why I developed the litigation boot camp, specifically for that. Like, how can I help with this struggle of where's my on-the-job training? Where's my mentor? Who's going to show me how to be a top performer? So that's mistake number 4. And what do you do to get out of that area, get out of that mistake? You go find the training. Paralegal boot camp? Yes. If you're in litigation, personal injury, we've got the investigative boot camp. Most of our courses currently, although I'll tell you some stuff in the future, not this video, but in a future video I will. But so currently we do focus mostly on litigation because that's the area that I can solve paralegal problems with. But whether it's the paralegal boot camp or some other place, go get the training. And when I say training, I could do a whole other separate video on just this topic alone. When I say training, I'm not talking about go take a 60-minute CLE webinar. As you know, if you've attended enough of those, you're not getting skills training. You're learning one little piece of this huge puzzle. And so, yeah, if you're a litigation paralegal and you know nothing about mergers and acquisitions, a 60-minute CLE webinar will give you the basic background. It's not going to teach you how to be a great M&A paralegal. It's not going to teach you how to go from litigation to M&A. So find skills-based training. That would be my recommendation. All right, that's it for today. Those 3 actionable strategies. If you want to make more money as a paralegal, you've got to make them money and show them that you're making them money or saving them money. You've got to ask for what you want, and you got to be the top performer. Have a great day.